What's up, everyone? Kevin Allen here, aka the Geek, and I'm back with another mass multi-entry NFL tutorial slash playbook. This one's for week 5 of the daily fantasy football season. I'm going to focus on Fanduel with this one, but I'm excited to introduce, I guess. I mean, I've done a bunch of these tutorials already, but this is going to be probably the first one where you're going to really see the newest version of the new stacking system in action. We've been using it the past few weeks. This week we added color coding to the stacks, which is really cool, and it's something I'm going to point out as I go through each one. Remember that we are doing correlation stacking options. That's the new beta system. That's the new system we've just designed. So let's get right into it. This video, I'm going to cover the entire process, start to finish, of setting up my entries for mass multi-entry using the Domination Station Optimizer and the new stacking system. And I want to kind of give an overall view. I've actually won, I don't know, 60 or 70 tickets to the Fanduel Millie Maker for this week, so I want to join Bobby Wow as a millionaire. And I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to do it this week. And you guys will get to see a little bit of a glimpse into my process for how I set up the Domination Station for these kind of lineups. So let's get right into it. Week 5, mass multi-entry. Now what you're looking at here is the Domination Station Optimizer, DFS Army. And my first thing I'm going to do here is going to select Fanduel, Main Slate, Classic Game Type. Now, the first thing you'll see up top is, of course, all of the games, all of the game totals, and you'll note that there's not too many games that really stand out as high-scoring potential games. You've got Houston-Atlanta as the most obvious, Bengals, Cardinals, Dallas, Green Bay, and my sneaky one is probably going to be a little bit of exposure here to Chargers, Denver. I might get a little bit of exposure right there, Minnesota Giants. But there's not a whole lot to get excited about in week 5. This Saints-Bucks game is interesting. Can go either way. That's what makes that one so interesting. But you always have to get some tournament exposure to a game like this because, you know, the Bucks, they either suck or they have a great game. All right, let's go down and start looking at our settings and prepping our player pool. So the first thing I look at is, you know, some of these settings here. I'm going to be running 150 lineups today, although we're not going to start with 150. I'll start with 50 just for the purpose of these demonstrations. If we do too many lineups, it just takes too long to run it over and over again the way that I do it. So you guys will get a real glimpse. And I usually do 3 or 4 unique players. I'm going to start with 3, but we might go to 4 uniques per lineup. It's going to be 3 or 4. And a lot of this is because we want to switch up enough on these teams to have a little bit of uniqueness across them. And 4 uniques works, 3 uniques works, whatever you want to do. 4 uniques will give you more variance through your lineups, more uniques per lineup, really. So a bigger spread of exposures. Now, the first thing we do before we get started with anything is we're going to deal with our player pool. A lot of people don't like to do this, or they don't do it right. So let's get started. How do we deal with our player pool? The first thing we do is uncheck every single player. That's it. It's done. Everybody's unchecked. Now we're going to go through and check back in players that we're going to be at least somewhat interested in using this week. Yeah, I considered Chase Daniel, but we're not going to use him. Position group by position group. Now, if you don't know what to do, we have our coach's notes. You'll see all the names that are kind of that I'm allowing into my lineups this week for the most part. I make a list each week. It's called the Geek's Picks Sheet on DFSArmy.com. So if you don't know, now you know. All right, so we're going to go through, again, each position group, putting check marks on any players that we're at least somewhat willing to use this week. Now, if you're looking at this video, and I'll talk a little bit about some of these players, but FanDuel and DraftKings have really different pricing structures in week 5, and it's really interesting. It's really fascinating. Like, for example, David Johnson is really right up there with the rest of the studs, running backs on DraftKings, but he's down here priced pretty low on FanDuel. I find that interesting. Same thing with Fournette. He's a little bit more expensive there, although not as dramatic. You have these 4 super studs. We want McCaffrey and Zeke as much as possible. Note the DVP numbers. Zeke is in the better matchup. McCaffrey has just been better, so he's got the better projection. Also note the fantasy points per dollar. These are very important numbers, as are projected ownership. So a lot of information right here at your fingertips. But we're just going through. We're going to put check marks on players that we're willing to potentially use in lineups this week. I don't love a lot of the cheapy options at running back, but I think you have to at least allow for some of them to be used. David Montgomery, let's see, 6%. So still low owned, but he's getting a lot of runs. So this is a very interesting punt play on FanDuel this week. And we continue down our list. Just making sure we don't forget anybody. Got to kind of look down the whole list just in case. Just in case. Now, one other thing we can do to sort of eliminate some of the garbage at the bottom of these is raise our fantasy points range. This will reduce the number of, it's just going to filter out anybody below 4 points. So it's a little bit easier to go through all of these players when you don't have to kind of have that whole bottom filled with a bunch of turds. So, you know, it's going to eliminate a lot of the turds. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Most of them, but not all. This is a turd. All right, so we continue to go through each position group, putting check marks on players that we're willing to use. I don't know how much of some of these guys I'm going to be interested in, but that's for deciding later. The only ones I'm not checking are players that I'm for sure, absolutely not interested in any exposure to whatsoever. And none of these guys really fits that mark for me. I mean, 6K Stephon Diggs, it's crazy. A lot of these players are just going to be used in our stacks as well, and that's fine. That's cool. That's cool. We're just going through. Look at this. Larry Fitzgerald at 5,800. We're just going through checking off players that we're willing to allow showing up into our lineups. Now, as I'm doing this, I want everybody to be aware. Look at what's happening here. There are just a plethora of really, really great potential wide receiver plays under 5K on FanDuel. I'm really excited to play on FanDuel this week because of this. I mean, Marquise Brown, 5,400, Dorsett, a touchdown scorer, Calvin Ridley, you know, a big play, GPP guy. There's tons of goodness here in the sub 6K range. Fuller, Fitzgerald, Cortland Sutton. I mean, I don't even want to pay up for Sanu, and I've got all those other guys who are in much better spots. So there's a lot of goodness down here, and you can keep going. It's not over. Auden Tate, Deontay Johnson, 5K. I mean, these prices are crazy low. These prices are borderline insane. So this is going to be a week. I can tell just by kind of going through these players that this is going to be a week where there's Keyshawn Johnson for 4,600. Are you kidding me? So this is going to be a week where we're really, really comfortably able to pay down. Now, one thing to note about FanDuel versus DraftKings is we want the touchdown scorers. So some of these guys that, you know, I'm not sure what Kuti, for example, is doing this week. I'm going to check him anyway, but I may pull him out later on if it turns out he's not playing, or if Kenny Stills is actually going to play. We'll see what happens with him. So, you know, there's a few injury situations that we're still going to monitor, but, you know, overall, this is the player pool that I'm working with at wide receiver, and here I'm going to just do another setting here where I control my tight end position. We're going to call that 15%. I don't like a whole lot of tight ends in the flex. I don't even want too many wide receivers in the flex this week on FanDuel, so I'm going to kind of limit that to 30% as well, or even 25. I think this is the week on Fanduel especially. I don't like them. I'm gonna go 15%. I want my running backs in the flex on Fanduel. You could play a little bit more wide receiver tight end on DraftKings where the scoring is different, but on Fanduel you're just so much more likely to get a great score out of a running back than you are a wide receiver. It's not even close. So, all right. Defense. Just going through team by team. I'm generally very interested in minimum viable defenses. I'm going to talk about Houston. So why do I check off Houston when I love this game? Because in lineups where, for example, Atlanta is not being featured or their offensive skill position players aren't being used, the question is why aren't they going off? Well, maybe Houston defense is doing their thing. Texans defense can get to the passer. They have a ferocious pass rush. So if Atlanta is failing, they're a chalk team this week. If they're failing, it's probably because Texans defense is doing a good job limiting them. So I do like to target the defense even in my mix of lineup entries, even against teams that I'm going to be heavily involved with. As a matter of fact, purposely for that reason. I'm going to have heavy exposure to the Atlanta offense, so give me some Texans defense in those lineups that aren't using them. That's the tournament game theory approach. Saints. Everybody loves the Bucs this week. They're going to be heavily owned. I'm going to take the Saints defense in some lineups that don't have any players from the Bucs. Dallas Cowboys? Sure. Let's see if we can get an even cheaper one. Bucs? Okay. Not in love with it, but I don't hate it. Teddy Bridgewater hadn't looked that good. Packers, Steelers. I mean, if you need the ultimate cheapest defense, we can use the Steelers. They can rush the passer. You know, it wouldn't shock me to see Lamar Jackson throw an interception. The guy is not accurate. So here we go. We've got our player pool going. Now, I can go through all the tools I use. We can look at, for example, the statsational model, which gives you a pretty good idea of which teams are going to be passing for a lot of yardage, which teams are going to be rushing for a lot of yardage. You want to take a look at that, which teams won't be rushing for a lot of yardage. Like, I know people love, John Connor. This number doesn't attract me, at least in cash games. So we can look at some of this and go, oh, Jacksonville, good spot with the running game. That's Leonard Fournette right there, right? Not so great with the passing game. Let's maybe not go so crazy with Jacksonville pass catchers here. I can look through. Patriots, 162 running, but who the hell knows who's going to do that, right? Here's the Eagles. Not as great of a running situation for them, but lots of passing yards potentially. Now here's your interesting one too, Bucs. Both teams can't run. Both teams will be throwing. So, Bucs, New Orleans. We want some of the pass catchers in this game. There we go. Atlanta, I talked about this before. Pretty heavy passing format for Atlanta. Interestingly, not as impressive numbers for Houston, which I think Watson and crew will be more chalk. But again, these are just estimates. This is based on what's been happening. This is NFL football. Anything can happen. Buffalo, 156 yards. A lot of that will come from the running back, from the quarterback. And then Denver, not the worst passing outlook for a team like Denver that's very, very cheap at quarterback and wide receiver. So a couple of things of note. Let's look at this final game. Green Bay, Dallas, very neutral. Dallas should do their thing on the ground. Very neutral passing situation. No preference. Okay. So we've got a little bit of that going on. Of course, all of these players are in the notes. And if you're setting up your own stacks, I mean, I encourage you, I know it's hard, but I encourage you to read the notes. Read, don't just look in. Don't just look at this. Read the words, because part of this discusses the stack. Should this be a game stack? Should this be a team stack? Who should you stack them with in tournaments or hybrid entries? So, not everybody's going to read it. I get it. It's a lot of words. But if you do, it's going to help because it's explaining why you might play this person, who to stack them with. Should this be a game stack? Should this be a team stack? you know, lots of important information here in the actual notes themselves. Lots of info there. Okay, so 15 minutes in. We're only now getting to our actual stacks. Here we go. I'm going to start going through this quarterback by quarterback. Now check out some cool new things that we've got going on before I get to this. So let's start with the Lamar Jackson. We're going to do, let's check what the notes say. What does it say? Game stack or team stack? Primary stack partners. So Andrews, Brown, and I do like the idea a little bit of I might split them up and do some game stacks and some team stacks here. Let's see what the salaries look like when we click on game stacks to see. So our only two players that are even eligible from Pittsburgh are Schuster and Deontay Johnson. Juju is 7,300. I'm not gonna. This is Fanduel. Juju's a little expensive for me based on this matchup. Not too expensive, just a little. I'm going to do 3% team stacks. Oh, I forgot to do the tight end position. Well, that doesn't help. Let's get that finished first. Then I have to go to my list sometimes and make sure I'm not forgetting anyone. Walker, yeah. No Ben Watson this week, people. He's out. I mean, 6,400. No, that's Waller. Got Jimmy Graham in there. We got Delaney. Let's see if we missed anybody. I mean, yeah, Tyler Eifert. So I'm gonna add Trey Burton to the mix here. Little Trey Burton, little Trizzy. I guess we can leave in O.J. Howard just in case. Orenthal James Howard. All right, so there we go. Back to this. Mark Andrews, Brown, Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards, not on my. I don't know how Gus Edwards. I don't know what the hell's going on here. Gus Edwards, please. How do you sneak in there? He's gone. So I want exposure, one of these three. Now check this out. This is going to be cool. When you click on correlation boost, look at that. A 30% boost applied to Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown's projection. So the reason I do this is in these when we set up these game stacks and team stacks, we rather than forcing two automatically, we do this correlation boost just to see. Sometimes a player is projected so poorly that even with a 30% boost to their projection, they're not showing up in your lineups. I don't like that. So I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to do a second rule here. I think I'm going to go only, for now I'm probably going to go, I don't know. Let's go 10% Lamar Jackson to start. So I'll do 6 in a team stack, and then I'll do 4% in a game stack. Part of the reason I don't love the game stack is I just don't like the pieces from Pittsburgh as much. So I'm not as inclined to want to game stack this heavily. But here we go. That's our two rules. We've got 10% Lamar Jackson. Let's add another rule. Let's go with some of our favorites for this week. We'll go Deshaun Watson, 20%. Those are going to be definite game stacks. I love this game. So we're going to boost up this correlation boost. Deshaun Watson, I think we only have 3 options for him right now. I kind of think you probably need 2 of the 3. He'll need a second player to go off for him to have a great game. Now he can rush in. He does run the football. But if I'm trying to give myself my best opportunity to catch lightning in a bottle when a game goes off, it's probably because two of these guys are having a big game. We still need to find out about Kenny Stills. Is he playing? If he is, then I don't love the Kiki, or I don't love him as much, so we'll have to take a look at that. We want one or two players from the opposing team as well. I'm going to go two. Let's go full blast game stacks here. We've got a correlation. Again, look at the numbers. Just watch it. No boost. Boost. Every one of these teams is set up for one secondary stack. Although a team like this, when you're going to do 2 and 2, this does not need a secondary stack, so we can just shut that off. We're doing such a massive game stack. You could use it, but it's not necessary, so we're going to shut it off for this one. Don't be afraid to turn off the secondary stack if you're doing a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 player stack like this. Okay. Flip side, Matt Ryan, who I like probably even more than Deshaun Watson, for the reason that I mentioned before, because it's easier to find two players that you want to stack him with. Now, I don't want too much Devonta with Matt Ryan. I'll limit him to 10%. I don't want too much Mohamed Sanu either. He's not a big-time scorer, so we'll limit him to 20%, and I'll leave the rest as they are, and let's see what happens. Again, this is on Fanduel, so I don't want a whole lot of a player like Kuti regardless, and actually I'm seeing that now. I don't want too much of this guy regardless. He's not a touchdown scorer. All right. One thing I like to do at this point, we've set up a few stacks. I just want to see that none of my stacks are kind of coming up with a rule that's too cray. It's too difficult. So I just run my 50. Let's see what happens. All good. See, running great. Nope. And we're going to continue hammering through. And I have a special trick at the end I'm going to show you guys, so stay tuned. All right, so we've got Jackson, Watson, Matty Ice. Let's keep going. We're going to do a game stack with Winston. That should be interesting. Let's limit this guy. Let's do, every time, like I said, I don't mind running it each time just to make sure it's working. Just make sure we can create lineups. And every time we kind of give it a run, let it make some lineups. There's Watson, lots of 2 men. There we go. Matt Ryan. 2-man stacks. I love it. One from the opposing team. Very good. Got Winston and Howard. There's way too much O.J. Howard, so I don't like that much O.J. Howard. I'm going to keep him down to 20%, run it again. I want to just make sure that I can fit Godwin and Julio in lineups together. Not Julio. Godwin and Evans in lineups together. Some lineups, anyway. You can do a 1-man stack if you don't want to do 2. It's not an absolute must. But let's see if we got some 2-men's in there. Yeah, Godwin and Howard, Godwin, Evans. So that's what we want to see. Where are we? Okay, we got Winston. We're going to keep going, adding rule after rule after rule. Each quarterback. We choose our quarterback exposures. This is a game stack. Andy Dalton. We like Dalton this week. Let's go 10%. And at some point, I'm going to have to go through all these exposures and make sure that we're getting enough of who we want. Yeah. Okay, got Dalton. Can do a little Kyler Murray. Again, these are the games I wanted to focus on. We talked about it at the beginning of this breakdown. There's a few games we want to focus on this week. Cincinnati, Arizona is one of them. We've got Cincinnati, Arizona. We've got Houston, Atlanta already taken care of. We've got Tampa Bay. I don't love stacking the Saints with Teddy Bridgewater. Can do Wentz. If we want, let's do 5%. You know, I'll add in quarterbacks in a good spot, even if I don't love, you know, a game stack with him. But how about Carson Wentz? Do 5%. Give it a boost. And no game stack here. So I can even do 2 secondary stacks in my Carson Wentz lineup. Let's try that. So let's give it another run, make sure I'm not over my total exposure allowance yet. If I am, I'll make some adjustments. But looks like we're running well. And again, this is what I do constantly and throughout. We haven't even gotten to adjusting our player pool. We're just setting up our stacks right now. I'm still going to make lots of adjustments to the actual player pool at the end. But yeah, we're getting our stacks in there. We're getting our lineups going. You know, we've got our RBs and whatever. Everybody's coming in. Look at this. No Zeke. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that? But anyway, let's count them up and see where we're at. 5, 15, 25, 35, 55, 75, 85. So we've got about 15% left. Now, one of my sneaky ones is Flacco. So cheap. Pretty good spot. Every once in a while he has a good game. You know, there's no reason not to like him. I'm going Flacco with 2 of, though. Let's go 5%. So we're at 90. I'm trying to remember who I haven't remembered yet. I'm going to go with... Did I get Cousins? Ugh. It's very difficult to want to play Cousins at all. But sometimes when it feels gross, that's when you should do it. That's when you should just take a shot. I mean, it's 150 lineups, so, you know, YOLO, fuck it. Let's use a guy that no one likes. Got to get 2 of with Cousins. We'll get 1 guy on the comeback for the Giants. So, that's 95. And let's find one last name to throw out there. I've already got Wentz in here. I guess we can think about maybe Dak Prescott. Let's see who else. Who do we forget? Chase Daniel? No. I guess we'll do a 5% Dak. I might reserve this. I don't love Dak now. You know, I'm going to reserve this to add to another stack that I like. Maybe just add a little more exposure somewhere. I can't believe I don't have another name. But yeah, maybe we'll take Deshaun to 25%. Just load up on Deshaun Watson this week. So, we've got most of our stacks set up. Oh, this is good. I'm glad this popped up. Error, you should choose a QB player. The solution is not immediately to go type to Kevin in Slack asking me what to do. What it means is you have an empty stack here with no player selected. Exit out. Okay, so I'm glad that just popped up, so we know the solution. All right, now we're running lineups, peoples. Let's run 50. Here we go. I'm going to show you how to deal with the player pool, because just making stacks isn't enough. We also have to adjust the player pool to deliver what we want. Like, for example, looking at this, that's a lot of Alvin Kamara. He's not my dude either. It's a lot of David Johnson. A lot of Christian McCaffrey, who I like. Not seeing my boy Zeke. Not seeing a lot of players that I like. So, you know, I'm not going to go cry. I'm not going to fold my hands up and say my life sucks. No. Because I have the power to control my exposures. So, slap a light of love on that motherfucker. How about in the door? Okay, that's how we get more exposure. What does a door do? It doesn't. It raises his fantasy projection by 15%. Like is 5%. Love is 10. If it's not enough, you can type it in. This is just a fun little way to increase exposure. I have players that I like a lot. They're not showing up as much as I want. What do we do? Slap a love on them if I want more. Slapping a door on them. We like Fournette. Give him a little boost. I want to make sure I'm getting a lot of these guys. These are the dudes that I want a lot of exposure to. So I'm going to set up my Fanduel lineups so that it gives me a lot of exposure to the guys that I like a lot. It's not hard. Zeke Elliott, a 100 Army grade. I don't know how much better it gets than that. Maybe David Johnson, 98.1. So I want the dudes that I like a lot in my lineups. So I just slapped some likes on some of those guys. Let's see what else is going on in our player pool that we need to control. It's a lot of Darren Waller, a guy at Chicago, not my favorite kind of a play. It's a lot of Austin Hooper, considering he's the most expensive tight end on FanDuel by a lot, and that's crazy. I'd rather just play him heavily on DraftKings, where he's cheap. I don't want the dude who's very expensive. It's a lot of Saints defense right there, a team projected for 5% ownership. I don't need 30% to double the field. If I go 5, I'll be double the field on this guy. Carolina Panthers, 10%. Okay, I'll stick with the field. Cowboys I like a lot. I like more than the field this week, so let's go 7%. This isn't that hard. I'm comparing my exposure to the projected ownership number, and I'm making sure that I'm within a range. Like, why do I not have enough Patriots? Well, why? Because they're very expensive. But I don't care. I want more. My boy Khalil Mack said, "Watch what I do," when asked about revenge game against the Raiders. I mean, what more can you ask for from a defensive player than just watch? It's a can't wait moment for him. So I'm going to raise those guys up a little bit, run it again. Each time I run it, I look at the exposures, how they're coming out, trying to make sure that they're along the lines of what I'm wanting. I don't want 100% exposure to David Johnson. Come on now. Come on, man. That's a bit much. How about 35%? Zeke not showing up enough, even at 22 points? How about 23.5? Huh. There we go. Eckler, none of these guys showing up where we want him? Eckler has grown on me since his coach said he's going to play a lot. That's all I need to hear. Good with it. It's a lot of David Montgomery. He's going to be 6% owned. I like this player a lot. That's way too much Devonta Freeman. I don't like this player very much. I'll take a couple of shares just in case he accidentally gets a touchdown, but I don't see it as like a likely event, so I'm not going to have him too high. Mixon can go a little higher than that. You know, GPP play, I definitely want some exposure to that. So we're just adjusting our player pool here and just going for it. Making our adjustments. If I'm seeing players that I want more of, I'm just gonna change their projection. Like, why is Marquise Brown so low? He's very, very cheap this week. Why is Tyler Boyd? He's in a good spot. Why is he so low? You know, so we're gonna raise up some projections on players we like a lot. Try to get a little more exposure to them across our lineups. This will raise up how much exposure to some of these players we're actually getting. It's a lot of Keyshawn Johnson for me. A little too much. Let's limit it. You know, I do like Calvin Ridley. So, you know, you're starting to see this all come together. That's a lot of Michael Thomas for me. You know, I don't want to be over the market on him. That's a way too much Will Fuller for me. Let's limit him to 15%. We'll stick with the field on him. Fitzgerald I love this week. I'm borderline ready to go all in on him, but I'm going to go 35%. So we're starting to make adjustments to our exposures here, and we're going to run it again and again. And each time you make those kind of adjustments, new players will pop up more than other ones. So do this if you're running the domination station. Figure on running the optimizer, the optimize setting, anywhere from 30 to 100 times before you're ready to actually stick with, the lineups that you have. Figure between 30 to 100 runs, and each time making slight adjustments to the pool, various things, getting a little more exposure. Sometimes you have too much exposure to a player. Sometimes it's not enough. So you see I made some adjustments, and now different players are starting to pop up a lot more, and other ones are maybe too little. So, you're just adjusting each time you go and making another run. Each position group needs to be worked in this manner. So, yeah, I mean, like Ertz, why is he so cheap? Eifert, that's a lot of Tyler Eifert, a guy who I'm not in love with. He's very cheap, but again, we'll limit him a little bit here. Hoops, it's a lot to pay for Hoops when I can get him on DraftKings for less, but I'm not getting enough of my boy Greg Olsen. So I want to kind of make some modifications to each of these pools. Buccaneers, I'm going to allow for 5%, not 38% here. Steelers, I'm going to allow for, let's call it, 7%, 8%, just in case, Jackson's turning the ball over a little bit. Very GPP only kind of play. So we're working our player pool here. Run it again. Every time I make a few adjustments, run it again. Now in a second I'm going to show you an alternative to setting up these lineups. But you've just seen how we do it with the old school stacking. Now what I haven't shown you are the completed lineups. And check out how cool this is. Look at these lineups. What am I looking at here? Okay, using the new stacking system, we could see the stack, and we could see a secondary stack in each lineup. So this is a Kyler Murray game stack. Murray to David Johnson to Larry Fitzgerald. That's a 3-man with a comeback on Tyler Boyd. In addition, we've got a secondary stack of Waller, David Montgomery. So running back, opposing pass catcher in this lineup. What you don't notice, because it's not highlighted, because it's not forced in, but it is a stack, is we've also got a Panthers McCaffrey stack here, but that happened just naturally. That was not forced in the way the Montgomery Waller stack was. And let's just keep going through. Now this is an unstacked lineup, you could tell. Here we didn't fill out the entirety of the 100% exposures across all of our stack settings. We only did 95%. So the other 5% are clearly going to Deshaun Watson, as he's showing up more than what we allowed for. So these are unstacked Deshaun Watson lineups. Just important to note. Now again, here's a Dalton. Dalton, Boyd, then Fitzgerald, Larry Johnson, so 2-man counter stack. We've got a Bears Montgomery secondary stack going here, and then 3 one-offs, and nice one-offs. This is a beautiful lineup. This is the way lineups look when they win tournaments. Jackson Brown, David Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, beautiful, and then we've got some one-offs. This is a great lineup. I love this lineup. Partially, it's also popping at the top of the fantasy points range, which means, for that reason, we would like it too. Here's Dalton, Fitzgerald, Auden Tate. Okay. Come back with David Johnson. Nice. Then a Fournette, Olsen secondary stack. McCaffrey just happens to be in it as well, so that's an additional sort of complement. And then we've got a couple of one-offs. Beautiful. Wentz, Cook, Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Vikings, Cook, Samuel McCaffrey, Wentz, Ertz. So this was where we put in the double stacks, the double secondary. We said, Wentz, I don't want to necessarily do game stacks against the Jets or even stack them up like crazy. So you do Wentz, Ertz, okay. And then 2 secondary stacks within this lineup. So it's still a correlated lineup, not necessarily around this quarterback, but around other players. That's pretty cool. So this is what you're getting with the new system. Watson. Ridley, Fuller. This is the big game stack where I said not to include a secondary stack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players. We don't need to force a secondary stack when we've got 5 players in the lineup correlated already. Here's your Cousins. Cousins, Cook, Thielen. Ingram on the comeback. Fitzgerald, Keyshawn Johnson. So I'm just going through to show kind of how these lineups look and how you can use the color coding to understand what's going on in them. Very cool. Flacco, Sanders, Sutton. Come back with Keenan Allen. Then we've got a Graham, Zeke Elliott, secondary correlated stack. Love it. These are beautiful. Now I'm going to show you something really cool. Let's say, I don't think I can go through the whole thing, but I'm going to try. So let's say, you know what, I don't want to use this, right? I'm setting up, but I'm having a hard time using the beta, or I don't like it. You can go and just open up the old stacking system. It's great. I can do it the same exact way in a simpler format. It's not going to create a secondary stack, but, you know, I can do Lamar Jackson, no less than 1 of WRTE, same team, and just kind of set rules like that. And I can go player by player and pretty much do the same thing. Boom. It's a lot faster to set up your stacks using this system. You know, we already know most of what's going on, right? So I'm just quickly doing it. Look at this. I know because it's fresh in my mind. I just did it. So we can go through them one by one. Go 2. Quickly setting up all of our stack rules, you know, and here, Dalton. See how that's working out? No problem. Now the difference between the new stacking system and the old stacking system, I do Colin Murray, I'm going to go through it real quick so you guys see how quick and easy this is, especially once you've already done it. Colin Murray. I'm just trying to remember everybody that we used. Right? Now, the difference is if I just run it like this, it's going to randomly choose the quarterbacks. So, the difference between the new stacking system and the older one is, with the older one, I need to go through the quarterback position in the main player pool. See, I didn't do a Lamar Jackson one, so I just used all of him, right? So what I need to do, actually, let me do a Lamar, I did one, but, hang on. The difference is we have to go, when we use the old stacking system, through the quarterback pool and set our exposures. So we'd go trying to match what we just did before. Oh yeah, 5, 10, 15, 25, 35, 45, 65, 70, 90, 100. I don't think I set rules for every single one of these guys. Let's do a Flacco one. Just setting up our rules. Now we'll run it. Now, this isn't going to show you the stacks and color coding. That's specific to the new system. But this system works great as well, and this you can use this as if you want. It doesn't matter. So, you know, this has been winning tournaments for us for years. Much simpler, a little quicker to put across, fewer decisions to make, less control, but so what? That's how it's done. So now you've gotten two potential pathways to setting up these lineups. All very nice. All right. I think that's going to do it for this video, guys. You've got a pretty good idea here in terms of how to use either of the new stacking systems. You've got a pretty good idea here of what my player pool is probably going to look like this week in my mass multi-entry contest. Obviously, there's more time left. This is Saturday morning. Lots of information is still out there, but I just wanted to break all of this down for everybody so you got another good example of how to set it all up. By the way, I can go right back to it here. You saw I switched. Just to be clear, if I close this, these will not be in effect. They still show here, but they're not in effect. So if I close that and go back to here, this is what will be in effect. Now, I can't use this system with all those minimums in place on the QB position. So again, what I have to do is go back here and set all of these quarterbacks to 0 min so that it continues to use the min exposures that we set here. Once we're done, as always, download your lineups. Save, upload to Fanduel directly into the contest. Let's find a contest. I'll find a cheap one just for the example. That's it. We just entered 50 lineups that we created. Actually, what did I do there? I think I ran those 50 using the old system. I'll run another 50 using the new system. I think my exposures will wind up being a little bit different this way, so kind of fun to run 2 sets in that quarter game. Who cares? You know, it's a quarter game, so just for shits and gigs. Let's throw another 50 in here, the other 50 in, and then we'll figure out later on which ones did better. This is far from the end of my lineup creation adventure for this weekend. I'm just getting started, but you know, I just figured I'd show you the full process of getting your lineups into an actual contest. I know some people have had some trouble with that in the past. It can be a little bit confusing, so we'll do it again here. Boom. And that's it. There's 100 lineups. Done. Like I said, I'm far from done and ready to roll for this week, but that was a pretty good example of how to set up the tool. And we'll be back, as always, in Slack, answering your questions, you know, discussing the slate, coming up with new ideas, new plays. I don't stop researching until pretty much, you know, Saturday night is one of my heaviest research nights, too. So, you know, this thing doesn't end right now. I'll still be hammering this stuff out. Enjoy the video. Good luck week 5, everyone, and I hope you crush it. Let's see those DFS Army avatars winning contests again.